We're going to take a look at the second grammar section in Lección 2. So forming questions in Spanish. So we have 3 different ways to ask questions in Spanish. And if you look at the examples on this page, we have several different options. ¿Te gustó mucho la tarea? No. So think about that as it's kind of like a last minute that you're asking for verification. So sometimes in other dialects in English, they might say, hey, at the end of a sentence, or right. You don't like that, right? That's the indication here. Hablas con tu mamá is pretty clear. You're putting the entire question into you're putting the entire phrase into the question mark. And then estudia Maru seems like it would just be Maru studies, right? But it's a shorter way of asking, does Maru study? So that's just kind of a truncated possible way for forming the question. One way to form a question is to raise the pitch of your voice, because we don't see question marks when we're speaking Spanish, but we can see them when they're written. Just like in English, we kind of raise our voice to a higher tone if we're unsure of something. Like, he went to the mall? It's a vocal inflection that happens. So when we're writing questions in Spanish and we're writing them, we put a question mark at the beginning, so it's upside down to indicate, hey, this is a question. But when I'm doing it while I'm speaking, it's that increase in tone that helps us determine it. And so if I said, ¿Ustedes trabajan los sábados? That would be like the octave up that I'm going in my tone to indicate this is a question. Carlota busca un mapa? Again, you're giving that nonverbal cue of, hey, this is a question because you don't see it in writing. You could also form a question by inverting the order of the subject and the verb in a declarative sentence. So if the verb precedes the subject, we are constructing a question. So look at the difference in the 2 statements. Ustedes trabajan los sábados. But if I invert that, I get trabajan ustedes los sábados. And that's a question right there because of how I've inverted it. You will have to listen carefully to how that is done as you're working through the work in Importalis. Questions can also be formed by adding the tag at the end, like no, or verdad, which indicates right. So I would be saying da 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 da, right? Or you don't like that, right? You don't eat eggs, right? That's kind of the idea there, is it's a little bit more of an informal way of forming a question. We also have question words. These are your vocabulary for question words that you would need to write down and to begin working on memorizing. When these words are heard by someone who's in a conversation in Spanish, you automatically know that they're preceding a question. So what's coming next is going to be them asking you a question to then respond to. When I'm answering a question, it is a little different construction in Spanish. So to ask a question that requires more than a yes or no answer, we have to use an interrogative word. So, ¿cuál, which, de ellos estudian la biblioteca? Which of them study in the library? So instead of donde, which is where, which would be like a simple question, or where could have multiple meanings, donde. These are interrogative words. So cuál, cuántos, dónde, qué, a dónde. Those aren't yes or no questions. So when we have non-yes or no questions, we call those interrogative words that are giving them to us at the beginning. When pronouncing this type of question, the pitch of your voice falls at the end of a sentence because the question part is at the beginning. So, ¿cómo llegas a la clase? So here how the como kind of comes down. ¿Por qué necesitas estudiar? So because the question word is coming earlier, not at the end, we would swap that octave tone change to the beginning. And this is something to pay very close attention to as you practice your pronunciation in Importalis. So if you notice the difference between por qué, which is written as 2 words, and it has an accent, and then por qué, which is written as 1 word. So when I have por qué as 1 word, that is because. When I have por qué as 2 words, that would be why. And notice the emphasis changes to the E. So, ¿por qué estudias español? ¿Por qué es divertido? So here are that por qué es. It flows into all of one piece. So that's a little bit easier to do it. In Spanish, no can mean both no and not, depending on context. So this is where a lot of your translation devices make mistakes because you need context to know if it's going to be the word not or if it's going to be the word no. So when we're answering a yes or no question, we do not need to use no. You need to use no twice. So for instance, caminan a la universidad. Do you walk to the university? You would say no caminamos a la universidad, because you would say no, we do not walk. So it's not a double negative in the sense of English, but it's the do not. So the second no is the not place, which is negating it in the sentence.